Hello, Austria. Welcome to My Millennial Money. I'm Glen James, and today on this episode of My Millennial Story, I've got a very interesting person who I think you'll get a lot out of this story. I'm speaking with Danni Visser. G'day, Danni. How are you?
Hey, I think you've already oversold it a little bit.
Oh, really? Okay, we'll just wrap this up now. Yeah. Now, the purpose of thanks for being here, by the way.
Yeah, my very great pleasure.
Thanks for
having us.
Thanks for driving up to the sunny coast.
Yeah, well, it's a new type of office. I've had lemon trees, passion fruits,
I know,
about 14 coffees.
I know,
so
I've
it's gonna
showed
be a
you
quick
the
chat
farm.
for everyone.
Yeah, and shout out to Glee Coffee Roasters for making us some delicious single origin
Very nice.
coffee. Now, what we do with the My Millennial Story, I just basically, if I'm talking to people that are interesting, or if I think they've got a story to tell that we can learn from and be encouraged with, and also to provide some entertainment, I'll grab them, I'll throw a microphone in their face, and generally nothing is off limits. I'll ask the person before the interview, is there any no-goes? And Danni has said there are no no-goes.
There are absolutely no no-goes.
Now, just tell us a little bit about yourself, Danni.
Well, this is going to be the, I guess I have been in and around financial services, actually. So one of the extremely exciting industries. I really love financial services. I wish I could tell you that I was a gangster or something more interesting, but the pendulum is the other way in terms of my career. Actually started for a few years before I stepped into financial services in fashion. So I did have a slightly different path before I got into financial services. But the other things that are probably more interesting about me is I like cheese. Mm-hmm. The cheese, like the world doesn't exist without cheese for me, and I don't feel too comfortable unless I've got two mismatched socks. So
Really?
That's a little bit different from your personality, Glen.
I know. I could never wear two mismatched socks.
I can't wear two same socks.
Really?
So
wow. So would you do they have to be yeah, sure. I may have done it a couple of times, but they've got to be the same brand.
How did it feel for you when you did it?
It was because they
Uncomfortable?
were just the country road ones that I have, but because they're the same type, it's not as if I got two different brands because of the different feeling. Are you one to do two different brands and two different flavors, or different flavors within the same brand?
Just whatever comes out of the sock packet.
Wow.
So I've literally got something called a sock packet, and I think I don't understand the point of spending time to match socks.
Okay.
So, yeah. So when I see those people with those beautifully ordered sock drawers, I've got a little bit of jealousy, but I'm a little bit curious about, how they find that time as well.
Wow. Interesting.
So they're the interesting bits of me. Love cheese and hate match socks.
Yeah. And you're a Sydney sider?
I am a Sydney sider now. So I've been a Sydney sider for almost 2 years, and before that I came across the border from Queensland. So that's where I grew up.
Right.
In little Bris Vegas, as we like to call it, back in the hometown.
Love it.
So yeah, I've love Sydney. I did the typical thing, moved from Brisbane to Bondi. The beaches in the morning, working out.
So you're not a German backpacker?
No. Pretty much the only one who's not,
Yeah.
But thank you for highlighting that, Glen. Yeah,
No,
thanks.
That's not a problem. Now, so this is My Millennial Money. You're a millennial, you're late 20s.
Yeah, yep. Add a little decade, but close to that, perfect.
So you're 35.
Yeah,
yep.
That's it.
And if you want to see Danni's charming smile, you can watch us on YouTube because we film our episodes now. So thanks for being on YouTube as well. Now, the money stuff.
You start to get a little queasy when the money stuff comes.
Yeah, and it's funny because even the mismatched socks, I mean, that's a bit of chaos. So it's just like we've got it, we've peeled the surface and we're starting to understand Danni the person.
Yeah.
And so let's see if that kind of adds up in the money part of your life.
Yeah, okay.
Now, so if we turn it back to little Danni, what was your experience like as a child? And I guess how was your world shaped around money and your upbringing?
Yeah. I think, the first thing that I'll sort of pick up on that you've said is, you'd probably rightly assume that talking about all things money and finance, given I've spent 15 years in this industry, would be quite natural and easy. And initially when you said come and talk about your money story, that that twang and that unease was a really interesting thing to dig a little bit into. So, yeah, and look, my early Danni days, I think I actually experienced both ends of the spectrum. So I grew up in an amazing house, abundance of love, but, in terms of financial stuff, there were times where money was really, really scarce, and there were other times where money was quite abundant. So I guess I have experienced what it's like to have and also to have not. And I think the other thing that is a memory that sticks out quite starkly for me is the time when my dad was unwell. So, and
How old were you at that time?
So I was in grade 3. So
Wow.
yeah, so quite young, but the memories are very, very vivid. And particularly, I guess, I remember distinctly money was always something to be treasured, even in the times where there was abundance. And it was almost like a little kid, as you would feel this relaxed, oh, okay, we've got, dad's healthy, he's well, there's a stable job, and you would actually feel that, all right, relaxed enjoyment feel. And in those scarce times, I guess you would feel the other side of that, although it wasn't told to us, and obviously, wasn't something that was, made prominent, you still felt it. So yeah, and I think having a dad that was unwell and unable to earn income, there was I definitely, as a little person, grew up with thinking that debt was like this smouldering fire. Like, debt has always been something that I've really kind of
But interesting, like it would have been probably exacerbated for your parents at the time because, when you were 3, I would have been 4. We're still children who don't know anything about life. But at that time, interest rates were up around 17, 18%.
Yeah.
Or at least climbing up to there. So there would have been extra pressure in the family. But it's just very interesting that event of your dad being unwell really shaped something within you.
Yeah, and I think it also leads to the fact, like I actually, I work in insurance, and I actually love the field. And I think that something that feeds into that is because I, even as a very little, because you're exactly right, interest rates were huge and there was pressure around mortgages. And I certainly do remember that that having insurance at that time for Dad meant that our family home actually was protected and that we always had a place to go to. So, the relatives would sort of do shifts as Mum was in hospital with Dad, and that sort of happened for about 6 months, I guess. So having that house was a real centre of security, and fortunately they did have the income protection to make sure that remained. So that's, I guess, why I do get quite passionate and excited and energetic around a topic that like people don't think, insurance doesn't innately sound all that exciting, but I love what I do, and I think it's because I've lived, I guess, the benefits of that.
Yeah, wow. And it would have been such a rarity at that time, like income insurance. Like, he was lucky that he had it.
Yeah, like it wasn't an intentional decision. It was just within the superannuation or the package that he had, because at the time he worked for one of the big banks. So, yeah, we were very it's really interesting as such a young person. I was very, very conscious even that, it's okay because the house is going to be there. So we'll all, and that was important because Dad had built that house largely with his own hands. So,
do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have one older sister.
Right. What does she do?
She's a specialist, so she's quite a smart little cookie.
Oh, hello, cookie.
So yeah, so she's a respiratory physician, so very busy at the moment, obviously.
Yeah, should have an opinion or 3 at the moment. And so Mum and Dad are still alive and well?
Yeah, they're still alive and well, and they actually they moved to Sydney first, as did my sister. So I sort of followed the crew. So we're a very tight knit little unit of people. So
I bet your parents are proud of you.
Yeah, well, you better ask them. But yeah, I'd like to think so.
Yeah, amazing.
They're really happy that I eat cheese with them. So I guess that matters.
Now, if we, I guess, fast forward to teenage Danni, you're 14, 15 years old, maybe the most influential period of one's life. What did you want your life to look like? Did you know what you wanted to do at that age?
You know what? I I actually, and this is something that I have spent a lot of time thinking about. I didn't have something that was a burning passion or a burning desire. And I think that, I think it's such a blessing for those people who do have this sort of innate passion and desire, because it's very clear what they're going to do. But I certainly didn't have that.
Would
Glen,
your sister be one to wear different socks?
No, she always had the socks lined up very precisely, and would get quite disgusted when I'd come and steal the socks and cause havoc.
No, because I guess the reason it's like you didn't know what you really wanted to do, but just from your personality, from the time I've known you, it's clear that you've just gone, well, I'm just going to play the cards I've dealt at the time and go at it.
Yeah, and I think that is something that although I didn't know what I wanted to do, I think probably, and I've been reflecting a little bit on all the pieces of the money story puzzle, but, reflecting a little bit, probably what was important to me about a job and employment was the stable income, a good stable paycheck, probably because of those ebbs and flows that I experienced as a kid. So I think that was something I did start in fashion, so something very, very creative, and I guess I've always, even in that field or whether it be in the field that I'm in now, kind of put everything into whatever I'm doing, because in my mind that's the best way. I do like to get involved in things, and that's the best way to create that stability, is to go your hardest and do your best kind of work. So you're right, picking that up. It's not that, and that probably is what gives me passion and enjoyment in things, is just like getting full in and finding those little avenues where I can do something a little bit different. And, I struggled with probably not having a passion, but then I heard a talk by Elizabeth Gilbert, which was sent to me by a friend, which was amazing. And she talks about hummingbirds and how, we're sort of brought up to think that we need to find this passion and this one purpose. But some people's purpose is just trying different things and shoving your nose in and getting involved in that moment. And for me, that creates a bit of presence in a moment when I can just, go hard at something. That's what I enjoy, and that gives me fulfillment. And so I've sort of come a little bit more at peace with the fact that I don't have this passion of what I'm doing with this one sole purpose. There's going to be a lot of little chapters that I open and go through in my life, and I've already lived a few of those at 35. Yeah. But that's. Did I even answer your question?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I just went on a drift.
I just want to
Bring me back whenever.
I just want to correct you on one thing. It's pronounced fashion.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I've got a pretty good blue steel too.
Okay. Sweet.
Is that even? Yeah.
Now, would you say you're a spender or saver by nature? Like if I gave you $100 in your wallet or $100 in a blow account, would it get through the next couple of days, or would it just somehow just find a way to get spent?
Yeah. Can I answer that in a really annoying way and say that I can be both of those things. So it depends. At some points in my life, I've been a real saver.
Has that been because of a goal or other factors? Yeah,
and probably because of other factors. Like I think I've always growing in through my career in financial services, I've probably got the tools and the skills and the knowledge to actually know what you should do with money.
Yeah, but there's a lot of overweight, unhealthy doctors.
Yeah.
They've studied the human body. They should know. And apologies, like it could be a medical condition. I'm just being dramatic to say that we're all just people with habits and behaviour. Yeah. So
whether you follow those, what you know you should do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I guess to answer the question, I fluctuate between being a saver and a spender, depending on what's going on in my life.
Interesting.
Really. I was previously married. I'm now divorced. In that relationship, I was probably a real saver. Like I felt like I was probably living in the scarcity bucket, hoarding a little bit, and that's probably a reflection of that part of my life.
How long were you in that relationship?
Oh, I think around 7 years. So it was really interesting. I was like, really, like, we need a budget.
6 years too long?
Yeah. close to that, 6.5 probably.
Yeah.
But look, you learn a whole heap of stuff. And during that time, as I've been reflecting back, I'm like, I was very diligent probably with money and very needed to pay off the mortgage and didn't want any debts and really wanted to ring fence that kind of safety, security. And then when I got out of there, I was well the other way, I guess, looking maybe for experiences and spending probably money on frivolous things. And I've probably come back.
So the pendulum just swung.
The pendulum just swings and like depending on what cements me or if I do have that, I figured for me it's not about those skills and the knowledge. It's actually figuring out, that well, what do I really value? And when I'm clear on that and I've got, as a hummingbird that doesn't have this one major purpose, that can kind of go on and off. So if I've got something that I'm working towards, then I'm in the saving trenches.
Yeah, and I found that by just talking with a variety of different people. And one of the things I also is if you want to save money, have a bloody good goal or have a focus of something you're going towards. Because you'll find naturally, I've got to spend $100 on this frivolous thing, but you've got that instant trade-off. It's like, do I want this thing faster? And can I just save it and get that goal faster? Yeah. But I guess we've got a unique opportunity. There could be thousands and thousands of, you're a gal, so we'll just say there's thousands and thousands of young women who might be listening. Yeah. I think you're a high performing professional woman who's kind of probably been through hell and back in a few areas of your life. I don't know, but just on the relationship. What would you say to a young woman in her maybe late 20s who's in a relationship and maybe thinking, what the hell's happening? This isn't what I had in mind. Yeah. Like, what do you say to people?
Yeah, I think a couple of the things that I've learnt that may help others. I think first of all, I think it's incredibly important. It doesn't happen overnight, but to try and get really intentional around, the more intentional you can get in more areas of your life, I think the better that area of your life becomes. Get yourself out of autopilot, I guess. I guess I was kind of going along the autopilot track. And it took a big kind of ripcord to get me out of that and to kind of, I guess, to start a different path and go, well, and I guess it's the same with money, Glen. It's like not making a decision is a decision. Yeah. So, the delay thing is actually quite toxic because it makes that decision harder and harder. And I did the delay thing a lot. And then just, I realised, well, delay is a decision. You are making a decision that's just probably not expanding your world. So that's one piece of advice is try to get intentional. And maybe if you're finding that really difficult and you've got this decision that's really hard to make, because we can go in ebbs and flows in our lives and feel great about things and then not so great. And relationships are hard work and often they're really worth that hard work. But a friend of mine once told me to put a date in my diary. Like with any big decision I've got, whether it's about work or whether it's about travel or whether it's about relationships, if you've got this consistent feeling that you've got over a patch of time and figure out what that patch of time is for you, having that sort of like, right, I've been thinking this now for, 3 months or whatever it is, it's time to make a decision and come to terms with that and actually go through with it. Because often, and certainly what I found is that it was actually the first steps were hardest and after that it was just like this balloon releasing.
Yeah, wow.
So that's the first thing I would say, and I guess having money in order. It's not not the be all and end all because your life is more important than money. But I think having your money in order really helped me make my own independent decisions around that. And I think it's a very brave decision when people don't have perhaps money in order, but if you can. The money component is quite important because it gives you that freedom to make your own decisions. And I don't know your views on that, Glen.
I can't talk to money in relationships from personal experience, but I guess it probably leads on to our next question. And again, you can tell me to shut up and go away, but like
on your own show,
like it probably doesn't matter the reason for the relationship breakdown, but did you have? A lot of women say they have an escape fund or something like that. like, what was the money situation like while you were in that relationship? Were we sharing money, or were we still keeping our own money?
Yeah, we were sharing money, and I guess that I was quite fortunate that it was a pretty even situation.
Yeah.
So the money didn't really impact the decision, and I guess I'm thinking about going through all of that with also a money concern. So I think that those ideas of having some money set aside for both people to have that fund, that emergency fund, is really important, and what ultimately it gets used for. But I think paying attention to money is really important, and paying attention to where it's going, what accounts, what super, because I then had to deal with a self-managed super fund, which we were both joint trustees on, and that I found that I let that go for like 2 years, which wasn't ideal, right? So if there's all sorts of issues that could have happened with that, and I'm just very fortunate. It was just too big for me to deal with, that a friend helped, a specialist helped me with that. So yeah, I would just be really conscious in everything when you're setting up, even if the relationship is wonderful, be aware of all those parts of where your money is going, how it's going, and understand it, so that, you can be a participant in it either way.
Yeah. So there you go. If you're listening and you're going through some stuff and things, you've got to make a decision. I think one thing I've learned from that, pick a date, and again, I can't give relationship advice, but I'll give a relationship comment. Maybe if you're in a relationship and it's almost this, we both feel that this isn't working, maybe it's we both agree on a date.
Yeah, that's a great decision. Yep.
We both go, look, let's try some counselling, or obviously if it's some domestic violence, you get the hell out of there like now if you can, and all that stuff. But I would just say, can you do that date thing, or even if it's a money decision, it's like we're thinking about, if the relationship is fine and all that, it's like, well, we're thinking about moving interstate.
Yeah.
Well, let's we're going to think about it for 3 months, and on this date, we're going to make the call.
Yeah. Yeah, people like to progress, and aimlessness is just so frustrating in any area of your life. So I really like that, and making, those joint decisions. And something you also said there that I think is incredibly been really beneficial to me is that getting to the point of a relationship where you've tried everything is really good for your fresh start. So I think that, if you do have an important relationship in your life, going through those steps like the counselling and doing those things together is really great, because if you decide it's not for both of you, then you know that it's just it's a clean cut and you can move on quite cleanly.
Yeah. And I guess it's a whole other level if there are kids involved as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really wild. Now, do you have any? How do you manage your money now? And do you have any debt?
Yeah. How do I? Yeah. So I do have debt. So debt is a really, even talking about debt, I'm getting a bit like, I can feel my heart racing actually. So debt is something that I innately I just go, oh. And debt can be very beneficial. So that's just something I guess I've is a learnt behaviour, to be cautious of debt. But I do have debt because I've got 2 properties. I've got an investment property in Brisbane that I bought when I was 26. And then I've just recently bought an abode, a very teeny tiny abode in Sydney in which I live.
Yep.
So, yeah, I've had to get super comfortable with debt. So, and to manage the money, what I do, and it's actually really basic. A couple of things is I don't like to, I think this is probably the don't like to wear matching socks part, is I don't like granular detail, and I don't want to live my life in a granular detail way.
Yeah, I'm the same.
So I guess I've just come to the point where I've decided on what I can spend, and I spend that on the things. Like I've actually spent a lot of time, and it was so many layers of figuring out what I actually deeply value beyond just what I'm told I should value. And I now spend my money on, I guess, on those things. And I have a bucket system. So this is the bucket and this is the amount per week that Danni can spend on stuff. And I also set in goals that if you get this, you get that. The other little thing that I do that people find quite novel is I have a a raise account.
Yep.
And every time I don't do something naughty, so if I don't buy 3 coffees a day, or if, I've given up the silly, piece of fashion that I should have bought, or, my socks or something that I know that's just, it has no purpose, I actually contribute that money to my raise account.
Perfect.
And then I see it actually accumulate, and that becomes what I can spend on something. So, for example, I had a painting that I wanted to buy for my new place, and every time that I didn't buy the second coffee a day, it went in there, and after a couple of months I bought the painting. So I can see it physically accumulate. And for me, it's those small things, not the big things. It's actually getting discipline on the small things. And then I actually enjoy the purchases rather than kind of this in the patches where I go off track. I'm not actually enjoying what I'm buying because it doesn't have that you've worked for it element a little bit. So I really like that system because it makes me feel like, oh, this is something I'm really enjoying now because I've actually kind of worked for it, and it gives me a bit of freedom.
And just on the practicalities, like, do you have your pay going to one account and then transfer an amount out to another account to spend? How does that?
Yeah. So, no, it all goes into the one account. I do have a thing where it would be, I guess there have been times in my life where I've had that all automated and it's been much, much better. So that is actually something on the to-do list.
I'm going to give you my spreadsheet.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I need a spreadsheet. Yeah.
And it will automate, so for those new to the podcast, it's called the Glen James
I'll report
spending
back
plan.
and let you know how it goes.
Yeah. So basically what you do, the first tab of the spreadsheet, you put your income in.
Yep.
All your income, investment property. Second tab, all your expenses. Third tab, it tells you how much to put in which account each week, and just set up the automation.
Okay. That's what I need.
But I mean, I'm not telling you how to run your life, but I'll just give you the spreadsheet.
Well, I'll report back and let you know how.
Yeah, but it's important to note that, Danni, she's killing it in her own life financially. She's, kicking goals. She's got a system that's working for her. And if it's working for her, tell me to get stuff. You've just got to find. But I just think from experience in working with hundreds of people, having a little bit of quarantining with your money will just allow that feeling of
joy. Yeah.
Well, and it's the permission to spend. But again, I would never tell anyone they should do anything with their money.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got credit card debt that you can't pay off, I'd probably focus on that. But what do I know? Do you have a credit card?
I do have a credit card.
Okay.
And I roll my eyes because
you've drank the Kool-Aid.
I've drank the Kool-Aid. I love, not so much anymore, but I love I don't even know if I should say this out loud. I love the Qantas points that I get from from my credit card.
Can you grab a tissue? There's Kool-Aid dripping. just on your bottom lip there. Just
drooling it. Yeah, so you can see that I probably anything that get gamified, or I can see something that's going up, I get into it. So I do have a credit card, and to be honest, it's one of those things that
Is it the Amex, Qantas Amex?
No, it's not. It's just a nub.
Yeah, okay.
One with. But the funny thing is, it's probably something I need to consider because I end up paying such big annual fees for it that it maybe wipes out many of the benefits that I actually get from that. So yeah, it's something to consider.
Yeah, and it's funny, it actually doesn't bother me if someone has a credit card. I actually don't care because it's their life and their money. But I used to have them. I used to pay a heap of expenses, clear it every month, do all that. I couldn't stomach even just a couple of grand owing for that month, even though if I didn't pay a cent of interest. So for me, that was the number one thing. I just couldn't stomach that short-term debt for crap. I couldn't control myself because I'm a spender. So someone might go, oh, I just don't drink alcohol because I can't control myself and it's better if I don't have alcohol at all. That's me with credit cards.
So you carry around a wad of cash?
Basically.
Down your top,
yeah, pretty much.
Dollar bills?
That's interesting.
Yeah. I think that the thing that I struggle with is it's just so easy, particularly when you're having drinks or you're socialising and you kind of get in the vibe with friends, to just do this.
Yeah, but you can do that, and we're doing the tapping signal. You can do that with a Visa debit card.
Yes, you can.
But
it's that's I think the thing that I don't know the solution for, But that is it
Well, I
almost
do.
loses the value of money.
Yeah, exactly.
It
And
loses, and for me, that is something I've been thinking about. Is like, but then you carry around cash.
the data says you
Yeah.
spend more on aggregate with a credit card.
I'm sure you spend
Now,
heaps more.
there are people who are listening to me going, Glenn, you're full of crap. You don't know anything. Like, yes, I give you that. I don't know anything. But I do know the whole reason credit cards exist
Yeah.
aren't to make you money.
Yeah.
And I used to joke with a friend of mine, Dirty Mike, and he probably won't care that I say this story, but he paid like $80 a month interest or something. I'm just making up a number. And I'm like, oh, this month I got $80 worth of cash back. Thanks, Mike. Like, it's just the net result is the financial institution
Yeah.
wins.
So what do? You carry around
Oh,
cash?
No. I've got my I call it a blow account. So the only banking app on my phone
Yep.
it's an Up Bank account, and the only card in my Apple Pay is the Up Bank account.
Okay.
So all my money is on my St. George offset, and then every week I just transfer $500 on a Thursday night over to my Up Bank card. I've only got $500, and I call it my blow money.
Yeah.
Food, fuel, going out, entertainment.
Yeah.
You mean I'm probably lucky that you paid for our coffee and food before because it's Thursday at the time of recording, and there's 29.
So I would have been maybe washing some dishes otherwise.
There's $29 on it because I know the
You're
system
welcome.
works.
Yeah.
And thank you. I know the system works because tonight $500 will go back in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really, and I'm exactly like you. I'm not one to budget and think, like, so to me, the apps that go, it feeds your bank statements in and it
Yeah.
shows you that you spent $18 on restaurants. I don't care. I'm always going to spend money on stuff. I just want to know how much I'm going to spend each week, how much I want to make sure my bills are all covered, and I want to see my savings and investments increasing.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
And it's really, now that you're saying this, and I'm going, yeah, because I'm a big. We've spoken about his book a lot. I'm a big James Clear fan of
Yes.
Atomic Habits.
Yes.
And one of the things that's just like neoning in my head at the moment as you're speaking is you don't rise to your goals as often as you fall to the level of your systems. So if your systems can provide that buffer to stop you doing the things that when you the seventh tequila in. Aggregate over a long, we all live a lot of weeks and a lot of days, hopefully, that's a really important thing. So I might start my own blow account.
Yeah, so I'll and actually we did chat about this. The spreadsheet is part of the spending plan app, the program that I'm going to send you anyway to have a look at. So you can have a look.
Days, new system.
Yeah, so it's funny. You know how before when you talked about debt, and you're just like,
Yeah.
do you know what the root word of like the meaning and the root like thing of mortgage is?
No.
So, and I just Googled it because I did forget, but the word nerds will notice an eerie root word in mortgage, mort or death.
Ooh.
The term comes from an old French and Latin before that to literally, an old French or Latin word before that to literally mean death pledge. That may, yeah.
And I've made two of them.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So the actual word itself is like bondage to something. Like, so that's why it's like, I don't love debt either.
Yeah.
Everyone goes, good debt, bad debt, okay debt. Like, sure, I just think all debt's bad, but yes, granted, you can claim some on tax. Like,
Yeah.
so it's just interesting, the root word of mortgage, because you sign with the bank, they're getting their money back. Basically, you're on the hook to them until you die, until you pay it back.
Yeah. And I mean, the durations of those loans are huge, right? Like,
Totally.
I mean, we've all just seen through this patch how quickly and swiftly life can change. And I don't think our generation really has experienced those things where, this is probably, I mean, I don't know your views, but this is probably the biggest kind of pivot that we've ever encountered, really, and just how quickly like life can be sailing along and then all of a sudden, boom.
Oh.
You're in a different financial. And so this thing of projecting, like I can't even think of, if I think of anything in my life, if I had to plan something for 2 years, I'd be like, can't do it. Like I plan probably, I am actually quite a, goals systems person, but I only do those every I do goals maximum 6 to 12 months, and 12 months is a long time. So to have this debt, which I now have for, the next 30, 40, that's such a long amount of time.
Totally.
But then you're like, well, yeah. So it is a big trade-off, and one that I've kind of slipped into, but one that I'm not, I am really, really conscious of, I guess.
So what is the best thing you've ever done?
You know what? I've had a lot of bests, which is actually...
Well, give us a couple.
Okay, I'll give you a couple. So last year I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time traveling. So I visited 9 countries in 12 months with work, which was incredible. So that was just such an experience, and spent time. So I work for Zurich in Switzerland. And just working with some incredible people who've done some phenomenal things. And just actually,
because your Instagram last year, it was like, does this chick have a job? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, well, the days, this is
Sweden, Prague, bloody Germany,
Yeah, well, and I'd like to clarify, I got a lot of heat on this. The days in Switzerland in summer are very, very long. So,
right.
It's the sun's up early, and the sun, you saw me, this morning I was up at 5 a.m. The sun would be well risen in Switzerland.
Right.
And, they have long days when in the summer until, sunlight until 10:30. So my point is, I've waffled a lot, but the point is I was working very, very hard in between.
Okay.
So look, that travel was incredible. I got to work with some amazing people, and someone I speak for a living, and one person I actually spoke about in one of my talks years ago was Connie Coucher, who's done a lot of work with Lego. So she turned Lego from basically a block building company into an experience and a tech company when she was the vice president of it. So that was incredible to just be in the realm of someone who's done that sort of stuff. So that was an incredible experience. I think one of the best things I've ever done in terms of money is realize that for me, money was never really about, systems and structure is certainly one level of the equation and a very important, but for me to actually value it and it to empower me, and not just to think of it as to actually add some care to it. One of the best things I've done is actually spent some time stepping into the question around, what do I value? What is my purpose? And that's, as I said, for a hummingbird, that's a pretty big question. And I just got to a point where I was like, right, I'm going to spend the time and the depth that actually takes, and not put this pressure on myself just to know and just to be able to say that. And so, huge. I think it's a huge multi-layered question that takes a lot of thinking. So one of the best things that I did was start that journey maybe 2 years ago, and it's just transformed my life. And I'm a little bit into that, but I've still got so long to go. But it's been, it's turned my life from something that was very much autopilot, just one step in front of the next, maybe not being that intentional about where I place those steps, to being, not that I get every step right now, but I certainly know kind of which way I want to go. And so that's been one of the best things I've ever done. Yeah,
I kind of, you mentioned it before about how things can change in an instant. One of my sayings that I always say to myself is it can all change in an instant.
Yeah.
Like good or bad.
Yeah.
And then I think following on from that, what I picked up from you because again, this podcast, I'm doing this to learn and be encouraged. I'm not your guru, everyone. Sure, I'd like to be. I'd like to charge you all $5,000 a month for the guru package, but I'm not your guru. I'm just trying to lead this community and host a podcast. But I like translation. You've kind of learning to happen to life and not let life happen to you.
Yeah.
Just to intentional, but you're still allowed to put different socks on.
Yeah.
Intentional doesn't mean strict. Intentional doesn't mean...
Or one direction forever.
Yeah, that's right. It's like casual doesn't really mean unorganized.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I guess maybe a better way of saying it is, and something that I've learnt through this whole thing is, it's paying attention. And I really feel like where you put your focus becomes your life for that. And so if you look at how you started this, anything that you do in terms of working with you is you'll try so many different things, but when you're doing it with laser focus, and you're into it, and you're putting diligence into it, and it might not be It might not be the thing you want to do for forever or for the next 3 months, but while you're doing it well rather than floating, I think.
Yeah, and as an example, we press record on the podcast and this is all like we're just chill and relaxed. But there was a lot of fluffing around for about 15 minutes before we actually got in here and press record, wasn't there?
Yeah,
It just, so it is this, we are intentional.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but we can actually have that intentionality as our framework. Anyway.
Because then you can be intentional about time off and breaks.
Totally.
And that's really important, I think, with money as well. Like you're intentional with your spending, but also you're splurging. You're intentional with your time hustling, but then you actually program, okay, I'm going to give yourself, like you're a doer. Like you got to almost like program, and I like to do and feel like you're doing, and doing is next to godliness, and actually giving yourself that carved out space to not do is actually really important because then you enjoy that space.
One thing I learned on that, and I spent for a while there, I was going to a psychologist, and it wasn't the psychologist I was going to, it wasn't a reactionary psychologist.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I'm having a breakdown, because I have been to the psychologist at 7 p.m. because I'm having a breakdown. I've done that.
Yeah.
But I've been to one that was more an active one. Just to really learn about myself. And
awesome.
What I learned, and this is so valuable because you said the dual thing, everybody's strength is also their biggest weakness.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
My strength is I'm a doer. Like Nathan probably hates, at times working here because he'll come in today and I was like, oh, Nathan, we're doing this now. He's like, oh, what? It wasn't on the schedule. I'm like, no, it's all good. We're doing it. Like
you wanted him to move the car so the street sweeper could sweep the street out.
That's right. Yeah. So
that's why you wear match socks.
Yeah. And gosh. Yeah, there was a street sweeper. So I'm like, Nate, can you move your car? I want the street cleaned.
We've got a bag of leaves for you later. It's fun.
But that whole thing is my biggest strength is I can get things done. But the problem is that's also my weakness because there's been period of time, particularly this year, I've done like 7 days a week work.
Yeah.
So I've just like, oh, hang on, no, I need to get back Sunday or Saturday, whatever day that is that I choose. This laptop that's freaking glued to me doesn't get opened.
Yeah. And that's where your systems are important to complement once you know yourself well enough to know your ebbs and flows.
Now, I'm going to finish with 2 questions. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, so thank you. And I speak on behalf of our listeners and we thank you for
thanks for
lending
having
us
me.
your time. If your best friend calls you right now, actually, who's your best friend?
Sarah Dav?
Yes. Is she the one that I said?
Yes,
Yeah.
she is.
She might listen to this.
She is a listener.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. So I said to Danny, because we did a webinar for an industry thing a couple of weeks ago, and I said to Danny, I said, oh, there's this chick in the Facebook group, because sometimes people make a comment and I'm like, oh, where are they from? And I click their profile and I'm like, Danny, you've got a doppelganger. Like you're in this chick's profile image. Like it's spitting image.
It was me.
Yeah. And I'm like, I think her name was like Laura or something like that, but it was Steph, was it?
Sarah.
Sorry. So if Sarah calls you today and
which she now will.
Yes. Well, you're a professional podcaster now. But right. And she's probably more financially woke than both of us.
Yeah, that's right.
But if she said, oh, Danny, what's the one bit of money advice? I need it. What would you tell her?
I'm going to think about this because she's very important. So it needs to be good advice. I think the one thing that is now very much golden in terms of all the advice I've received, and I've asked a lot of people for advice and read a lot of books, is that your relationship with money is never really about the money. It's more probably about you and how close or how are you in agreement with yourself and where you want to be, or how far away from that are you? Because if I look at every time where I've had these kind of track records of being great with money and, great, all my life is like that, it kind of follows everything else. So the money is just a little snippet of what's lying underneath the surface. And then that's actually a really amazing opportunity if you go, whoa, this is all a bit out of control, because money shows you things are out of control pretty quickly, to sort of stop and observe, because I think we go, well, I'm this and I'm that. And certainly in my, when I tried to get across, my true values, not what someone tells you is valuable and what you do to be significant in the world, but what you actually, is truly fulfilling for you. I guess I stopped talking about who I thought I was and I watched my actions for a while, because I think we're way too complicated to actually understand who we think we are. We kind of say it, but what we actually do with our money or our actions is a really clear indication of what we value, because it shows what we prioritize. So, if you are going to go, this is such a long answer, I'm so sorry. If you are going to go through this this process with money, is maybe just don't try and decide, just observe. And I wrote everything down in a journal for like a month. And that gave me a really good indication around what I needed to start to work on in me to fix my money. And then the systems and the processes are important. But I think if you don't get that fundamental basis right and get in agreement with yourself, then it's going to be incredibly important to get those systems working for you. You'll be continually frustrated.
I think it's it's follow the money. I mean, I've always kind of I agree with you that the outward display and the outward actions of people, particularly around their money, are just a reflection of maybe what's going on the inside. Yeah. So if you look, people get really wealthy, they're just a big asshole, or people get really wealthy, they're just beautiful, generous people. It's just a magnifier. Money's a tool. Yep. You disrespect money for a long period of time, see what happens with your life. Yep. Money is, it needs to breathe and move. You accrue money and amass it for yourself. It gets stuffy, it gets moldy, and it'll make you a terrible person. Yep. And that's why I always say you've got to give some, save some, and spend some in that order.
Give some, save some. Yep.
Because if you're not, you're out of balance. So
totally agree.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now, lastly, this is your platform, and I will say there is a. You're from Brisbane.
Yeah, Bris Vegas.
There is a...
Use the proper phrase.
Yeah, sorry. Bris Vegas. I've got a story about Brisbane. I'll tell you later. Everyone probably wants to know because I
want to know. You can't do that.
All right. So I was in Brisbane. No, I'm not saying it. Okay.
This is even worse now. This is even worse.
Yeah, message me. I might tell you in the Facebook group or something. There's a 23-year-old grad in Brisbane listening now. And she's driving a car. She's... Okay. And I don't know. She's listening. She dialed in with her money. She wants to go. What are you telling her and all the other people out there like her? From your experience, what would you tell the 23-year-old Danni in Brisbane right now?
I think that you don't need to know it all now. I think that we put such pressure on ourselves to know everything now, take right paths, understand where we're heading in life, get everything right. And I think that can be really paralyzing. So I think the better thing to do is just to cut yourself some slack. Some people know what they want to do. Some people, have this burning desire. A lot of people actually don't. And the only way you actually ignite that burning desire and find your flow and find the thing that makes you tick is by trying a whole heap of things. And it does take a lot of courage. It takes courage to kind of, if the thing that you want to do doesn't stack up in kind of the narrative you've been told that makes you successful or significant, it takes a lot of courage to actually follow sometimes that path. So my advice would be two things. Just start exploring things if you're not certain on what you want to do or, what to do next and in any area of your life. And the second part, I can't even remember the second part, but
whatever.
Whatever. I think I need another coffee. I need one.
No, that was good. I was just thinking, and if you're not I'll say this, if you're under 35 or under 30, it might not be applicable yet, but I look back 10 years ago and I think, oh, geez, I was a dickhead. I had no idea what I was doing. But at the time, I knew what I was doing. Now, interestingly enough, if I fast forward now,
Yeah.
what would the Glen of 10 years be thinking about the Glen today? So what can I do?
Yeah.
No, and I always say, when I invest, I'm doing the Glen of tomorrow a favour today. So what can I do with the Glen of today to take pressure off the Glen of tomorrow with any regrets or stuff?
And don't you think we just need a bit of exploratory time? Like that's what I think. If you're
Nate?
23, exploratory time.
Latex gloves and some lube. That's wildly inappropriate.
Is that what happened in Brisbane?
Yes.
Yeah, is that
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Yes.
So exploratory time, like just explore and take the pressure off yourself to be, it's so easy to feel like, I've got to do well and I've got to be successful and I've got to do these things. And I can't even remember his name, but I remember listening to this guy talk about he was a master in all these sorts of things like chess, wakeboarding, all these fancy, amazing things, right? And not just a master, he was like world renowned for a number of different weird things. And he said like there's this tedium patch in learning or exploring where he just cuts off any commentary from anyone. So he allows himself to go through this patch where no one's assessing how successful he is at something or good or refining his technique. And I think we need that in our lives, especially when we're trying to find a path if you don't have that clear set path where you can just explore and be a bit fallow and be a bit like, be a bit adventurous.
So
we're different socks. Live life to the end.
I actually
says the person.
I actually
who works in
did that a couple of weeks ago just to try it.
I'll get you some. A
It
revolution.
was just wild. All right. Do you want to stay around for an after party?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
There's
we'll end the
gloves
episode
and-
now, and we'll hang on. We'll let everyone go, and then we'll have a bit of an after party.
I mean,
All right. Thanks for joining us today.
thanks, Glenn.
Now, only
Do you like my party, Glenn?
the what?
Do you like my party?
What's your party?
This after party.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's so good. I'm like, what party? So
It's all right. It's rocking, clearly.
yeah, so only like the hardcore podcast listeners
Okay.
listen to this because we
Hi.
just talk crap and banter and chat. A couple of things. What's your go-to burger at Grilled?
Lamb baba.
Really? Do you know there's only one lamb burger on the menu?
I haven't finished.
Oh.
It's the lamb. It's a lamb baba, the no carb bun. So
Oh,
Bondi.
yeah.
So Bondi.
Yeah, but you know the low carb bun? I always have that, right?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the time. But you need to have a shower after you've finished eating because it just
And
goes
it's always
everywhere.
soggy.
I know. I love it.
But then I'm still not finished.
Oh.
You need to give me enough time to answer these questions. Then I get the fries, not the sweet potato ones, the other ones that are just full of oil.
Yeah.
They're like the eggplant, zucchini, yeah.
Yeah.
So then I save some carbs in the bun so that I can eat the fries on the burger. So I put the fries on the burger. Try it. You can thank me later.
So when
Best value of the whole discussion.
yeah, I might try that. What so when you were overseas,
Yeah.
like what countries were you in?
Okay, so the ones that rather than just hopping around, because you can do that in Europe, right? The ones that I loved, my top 3 was Switzerland. Well, Switzerland's amazing. And then Spain, Madrid. I was in Madrid. And actually, while I was in Madrid, they had the UN Global Climate Summit. And so Greta Thunberg and everyone so we stayed at the Palace of Madrid, and across the road was all the attendees for the UN Climate Summit. And so when I walked, and a lot of them were staying in the hotel. So when I walked in my cons, which travel with me everywhere in my backpack that I brought here today, I got searched about 4 or 5 times, and they were like, "Are you really staying here, ma'am?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I didn't quite fit the mold.
Wow.
So that was amazing, because you'd go into the breakfast area and all those very important fancy people were there.
Wow. And Did you have to cancel any travel plans because of COVID?
No, not really. So I was very fortunate that a lot of my travel was last year. I also spent a lot of time in Morocco actually, and I would say
I'm sorry. Sounds terrible.
that was the personal kind of add-ons.
Yeah.
But if you haven't been to Morocco, it's incredible. I'd go. That's one of my favourite countries.
I love the travelling thing, but one thing that pisses me off about air travel,
yeah,
the airline,
come on, Princess, tell us.
they have no regard for your for time zones. No regard.
Explain that. I'm not quite.
They don't care. Like, I want to be able to fly into Sydney at night so I can get off the plane into bed. I want to be able to. They need to have every flight so it arrives in your destination at night.
Okay.
Because there is no worse feeling in the world than flying a 20-hour trip.
I used to like you, Glen.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a plus that you used to. Oh, I'm working off you've never liked me, so it actually doesn't matter.
That's it. I've actually never heard that. What's the worst thing about travel? You don't get in at the time you want.
Yeah, I hate it. Like, I always like to.
So they should retrofit it. Yeah, it's actually a clever idea. Like, work backwards so that you're getting on the plane at like 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yes.
Okay. I'm back on the level.
So when I go to like LA, because I usually like post-COVID, pre-COVID, I would go to the States for conferences twice a year.
Yep.
And it's like you're flying to LA at 6 a.m. You're so bloody tired, but you got to stay awake the whole day. I'd rather leave Sydney at like 1 a.m. or something and get into LA.
Do something about it, Qantas.
Yeah.
Are you using this platform to...
I'm making real change.
Yeah, good. Good. I like I can see what you're doing.
But how bad's that?
That you care about it?
No, that they've got no regard for your own time sleeping patterns.
I've given you a little bit of leeway, but I'm going to bring back the princess call. It's fun.
That's fine. I'm just making comments.
What's your favourite favourite plane food? Do you like sneak something on to get you through?
I'm a plane nerd.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. See that flag up there, the Qantas 747?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I went on the...
Is that when you get bored of what someone's saying? You just like, look at that. Oh, I can see it.
I went on the final 747 flight and I did the joyride. My favourite plane is a Boeing 777. Do you have a favourite plane?
I do, and I'll... Yeah. So I actually flew Qatar.
I've heard good things.
Amazing. So good. But here's a fun fact that everyone's going to think is very unfun. I went, back and forward from Switzerland probably maybe 6, 7, 8 times. Never watched a movie. I read books.
Wow. Oh, did you like that book I sent down?
Yes. That was a great book.
Yeah. What was it called?
I actually...
Made to Stick.
Made to Stick.
Yeah, I've been giving it to everyone, yeah. You're not special. I've been giving it to everyone, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I love a good book. So I'd actually get a bit upset when the plane was coming down. I'm like, but I've got 2 or 3 chapters. I should probably call the airline and just say, if you could sort your flights out just to keep us up in the air, because this is maybe something you do, keep us up in the air so that I can get my book read properly. Yeah. I'll do that.
The funny thing is... Oh, did Zurich pay for you to go business?
No.
Oh, tight asses.
Series called bullshit.
Yeah. Gee, Zurich, look after your staff.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like you go on this 14-hour flight, right?
Which Slade?
Why Zurich?
I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah. And... it's just like you're doing nothing for that time. And then it's like, all right, it's time to land, freaking get ready. And you're like, hang on, I want to brush my teeth or freaking do something. And, so basically this is my go-to.
Yeah.
When they say, all right, we're about to land, go back to your seat. At that point, I get up and then brush my teeth and...
Maybe you should do a bit of a systems pack for people. Just, this is what you should do when.
Yeah.
And you can add in maybe a bit of a petition.
Yeah.
It's this sneaky way to get a bit of a...
But this is so weird.
It's happening about landing at the right time.
Well, it's the Sydney curfew. And I'd imagine Brisbane has one as well.
Well, in Zurich, you can't fly. Like I'm not going to get the exact time, but it's something after 6 p.m. or something quite early.
Wow.
Airspace done Sundays, and I think on Sundays as well, airspace even earlier. You cannot fly over. So people, if there's a delay, you literally get stuck in a different country because of the sound.
Yeah. So Sydney Airport curfew is 11 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Okay.
And there's exceptions for like emergency flights or like private political stuff. Now, in daylight savings, I think it goes to 5 a.m. so you can land a bit earlier. But the problem I have is the curfews were made when there was older plane technology. You're looking at me like you're pretending to care.
And then, what I was thinking is like, if anyone was joining us, there's now no one.
Yeah, I know. So to the two people left,
I hope you're into
like an old,
air flying. Air flying.
An old, like a 747 is a lot noisier than an A380.
You should head to some of the suburbs like Haberfield, Annandale, where and the houses shake as the planes go over.
Yeah, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Okay.
And
where do you live, Glen?
Sorry?
Where do you live?
At Blue Bay.
Oh, okay. So pretty close, so you'd know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
just checking.
Yeah. I'm a professional. No, but
it's not as bad anymore.
No.
I just want to fly in my defense, and I want to fly in at the right time.
Nope. In my defense.
Hold up.
Hang on. In my defense, Your Honour, I believe under the right weather conditions, Sydney,
you should have a chat with the.
You can take off over the ocean.
Oh.
And you can land in over the ocean.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I just think the curfew needs to be addressed because it was based on older technology. And also I've got no idea what I'm talking about.
No one would ever have known.
No. All right. We've got to go. Nath's going to have some lunch. Thanks, Nath, for editing the podcast.
Pretty much remove this whole back section.
No, it's the after party. Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
Well, my sound wasn't good. I was trying to cut my sound out. Most famous person I've ever met.
Or like being in the same zone with.
I can't even think of anyone. I'm almost tempted to make someone up. I don't keep fancy company.
Glen James.
Oh, sorry. Glen James.
I'm dying. I've been in the presence of some famous people.
Who? Me?
Danni Visser. Yeah. But I don't get like starstruck.
No, neither do I. I don't.
I think it's cool that I've been next to them and stuff. So when I got back from the States in Feb, I think it was Feb or the end of last year, I was standing next to Russell Crowe in immigration.
Was he friendly?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even say hi to him.
Okay.
Because it's like...
Just too good?
So, well, I'm a nobody.
Yeah, okay.
He probably gets harassed all the time. No one feels like doing anything after they've been on a 15-hour flight. And then I was on the same flight with one of the Hemsworth brothers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He's pretty sexy.
Yeah, he is sexy.
They both are, aren't they?
Oh,
I've got really bad, like, I don't know what...
I walk past people, honestly, like stars, people in movies. I just don't know. Like my brain either tunes in or it tunes out. Like, and this is why paying attention is so important to me, because if I'm not into something, I am so not into it. And like I'm the worst. Like small fluffy dogs get selected before I get selected for bingo. Like, is it even bingo? No, it's not bingo. Pub trivia.
Pub trivia. Yeah.
Bingo. Pub trivia. Cannot answer any questions. So I could walk past famous people all the time, and I probably do, and wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, and I think it was I got upgraded to first class coming back from the States once.
Fancy.
And he was in the cabin, and I was just like, oh, hey, mate, how are you? And like just general hi. And then I went and asked the wait staff or whatever, the flight attendant. I'm like, oh, who's that? It's like, oh.
What did they say? Do they have protocols around that?
Oh, I'm sure they do, like by the book, but also...
You're a pretty big deal, so they get waived.
Just hanging out, chatting. But
Do you know I've never been upgraded?
really,
Ever.
I would.
Never. I mean, that's why I use my Qantas points to upgrade all the time. That's why I love Qantas points.
Yeah, I've got heaps of Qantas points.
So, well,
Oh, how's this? Talk about, and this is a tip that I've learned for young players. Because Qantas cancelled my flight to the States next month. So I'm like, oh, and the dumb emails was like, oh, if you want to, you've got a credit till the end of next year, or you can call us and cancel. And I'm like, all right, I'll call. So I called. It's like a 40-minute wait. And then I was on hold to them, and my friend, Ben Gleason, called me. And if you know Ben, he'll listen to our podcast. He'll chat.
bloody Ben.
And I'm just like, put it on hold. I'm like,
This is your problem, Ben.
yeah, I'm like, hey mate, how are you? Like,
Not
yeah,
Glenn's.
what's going on? Like, I'm on the hold on the other side. I've got to go. Anyway, I'm like, all right, I see you, babe. And then when we hang up, and the other line had hung up, they'd answered me while I had them on hold.
Yeah.
But then when I called the other day, I actually put my frequent flyer number in.
Yeah, because I was
and
like,
it was a 1 minute wait. And I got
me straight up.
Yeah, I got into the Hobart call center. And I said to them, like, oh, is this like special because I put my number in because it was like 40-minute wait? He goes, oh, yeah, we, based on your service levels.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
That is actually that is a critical tip.
how
who wants to wait
privileged
on-
are we sounding right now?
I know. Like I said
why-
before, I used to like you.
Yeah, you never did. We were talking before, like I said to Danny, because we're going to work on maybe some cool stuff, because I run a financial advisors Facebook group, and I said, yeah, I think a lot of people in the industry don't like me. Well, that's my perceived thing, because I think I'm polarizing.
I love you.
And I'm pretty polarizing, and yeah, I guess it's,
No, you need to have an opinion in life.
yeah.
Not having an opinion is, if you've annoyed a few people, it means that you're either doing good stuff or you're pretty set in your opinions. And having an opinion is important.
The more I've do this podcast and crap, it's like the more I learn, it's like, this is just my view. It's like that credit card thing before. It's like, I actually don't care if you have a credit card. I don't have one.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
You know what I think is really, and this is stealing a little bit of from Jordan Peterson for any Jordan Peterson fan.
I've read his book.
He's really he's polarizing,
Totally.
but he's very very intelligent and well put. And I think one of the things he says is really important around have an opinion, but have a well-formed opinion, and then be able to engage in really, intelligent dialogue, which is just accepting there are so many different perspectives and you are never, ever going to change someone else's, but maybe you can understand of how they formed their opinion. And in a conversation, some people go into conversations thinking, not even my opinion's right, but a conversation should actually be about maybe trying to understand someone else's opinion or how they formed it. And I think that just leads to such, like being Dutch and cheese and all that sort of stuff. That's something I was taught is understand, like conversation can be so rich if you go into it genuinely listening and genuinely trying to understand and interested in how someone else formed their opinion.
My dentist taught me. And it wasn't like, Glen, I'm going to teach you something. I was actually catching up with her and her husband because he's a hygienist. She's a dentist. And my office used to be next to their practice. And every time I go there, they can only talk at me. Like, look, let's just go and get brunch one day. And we had brunch one day just to catch up. And, Dupe said to me, she got called up to the school because there was an issue and she was, how you find something is like, I'm going to go in swinging. She's like, no, she's like, no, seek first to understand. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to seek first to understand. And that stuck with me. So it's kind of like, everyone's a nobody, really. But we've all had experiences and what can we learn from each other to be better?
Yeah, and I think for me hearing it from a psychologist was really interesting because you're actually never going to change someone's opinion. So generally people go in and fight for their opinion, but there's absolutely no point. And it's just like the best you can get is understanding how someone made their opinion and them understanding yours. And that's actually a really rich chat and a really fun chat.
Well, I think it's that saying those convinced against their will are of the same opinion still.
Ooh, Have to send that. You'd have to say that 3 times for me to understand that.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
Might steal that.
You can. I stole it.
Okay, good. 'Cause add it to the steal bucket.
Yeah. But it's just like that's the one thing I've learned with like the podcast. You know, some people like love what we do.
Yeah.
But other people, like they'll put comments on stuff like, Glen, he's so arrogant. Glen, he's so privileged. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm trying to learn to not be. Like, I don't know if I am, but it's just perception. And every word you say, people will hang. They'll hold you to account for every word you say without context.
Yep. And I think like the thing that someone said to me once that I think is one of the best things of it, you're not bacon. You're not going to keep everyone happy.
No.
And really that is so true. And if you keep trying, you're just going to keep going around in circles and not knowing who you are.
I eat a lot less bacon these days.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't eat that much meat anymore, like red meat.
Vegetarian?
No. I get reflux from bacon.
You know what?
I'm getting old.
I'll throw this in because it's got no relevance to what we're talking about. It has a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's a really good spend of time. I am a doco nerd. What's your 2040 by Damien Gamo?
2040.
What's your 2040? So he wrote this. It's all around sort of our planet, sustainability, all this sort of stuff. He wrote a letter he's like an Australian actor, turned his view to docos, wrote That Sugar film.
Oh, yes.
And now What's Your 2040 is his latest one. But he looks at all the stuff we've got like at our disposal, available now, like not a utopian 2040, but what our world could look like if we keep going on the trajectory.
Oh, 2040 is in like
What's your 2040? Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just like, is this some type of diet? There's like 60 minutes in a day or whatever.
No, it's a proper like what our actual world could look like. And it's really for anyone who does like numbers and science and data, it's a really science data-based discovery and not based on, we could do this and we could do that. It's based on actually we've got this stuff available to us now. We could actually start using it and what's the benefit of using it. And he looks at the economics of it too. So he looks at the financial.
Do you know in terms of like sustainability, and we should end with this because we need to go get lunch and let everyone go.
The one person that's
one person. We got bad feedback that we didn't end the podcast when we say we're going to end it.
Okay, shit.
But it's kind of like, no, the podcast ends and you don't have to listen to this.
Yeah.
In fact, you don't have to listen to anything.
That's right.
It's choice. I'm not holding a gun against your head. There's the documentary. I would implore anyone to watch it.
Okay.
The Bill Gates one.
Okay.
And he actually, I think he put like $400 million behind this research.
Wow.
And they made sustainable nuclear power that runs off the used uranium from traditional nuclear power. And they were going to start one, they were going to put one in China, create the plant, but then tariff war hit with China and all bets were off.
Wow.
So
still, it'll come out fighting at some point, right?
Very interesting.
And you know what? Like, I'll end it on this, and this is something I've done in my latest 12 months. It's made such a big difference. This could be a bit. People could be divided on this. I've stopped listening to the news because it just makes just understanding how people sell things through fear.
Yes,
is really, I've dived into that from read some stuff that's been written about it, and it's actually such a big thing how they fire up. And I've watched different people who I really care around me, their whole persona, their whole days change because they're fed, their fear gets triggered by news that just filters into our home. And a friend said, you can't dance in the pan with garlic and not get infused. Like, you can't let negative stuff bombard you and not feel really down about the day.
Yeah.
And I actually do listen to news. I do listen to facts. I do educate myself, but I just choose the sources now, and I choose sources that promote and talk about kind of balanced stuff or positive stuff. Like Future Crunch, I will read them every day because I'm like, the world's great. Like, we've never been in a better world in some regards, and we just need to, there's always an opportunity versus the pessimism, I think. And I'd prefer, if you have to exist in it anyway, to to focus on the.
Yeah,
the outside.
I kind of only really I watch SBS at 6:30 if
So
I
do
want to
I,
get it in the news, or if I miss that, I'll watch channel ABC, ABC News at 7. I mean the channel 9 and 7. It's like. No, the fact that you can buy meat in aisle 3 on Thursdays, telling me that at 6:20, that's not news. Sorry, that's called advertorial content.
And you know when you realise the difference of something, like now, because I don't have it in my house, like I don't have my TV pumping that crap into my space. And I'm sorry that is a full-on word, but that's my perspective, my view. I now, when I walk into a house where it is on, I viscerally notice the difference. So for me, I'm like, why am I on edge? Oh, because that's coming.
Oh yeah. It's wild.
Anyway, that's
All
it.
right.
I promise we're leaving.
Nice knowing you. Keep it real. Thanks for joining us.
Ciao.
Bye bye.